Students, parents, teachers, what are the three types of clutter? Why should you even care? And what can you do about it? What is up? My name is Seth Perler, and I am an executive function coach. I wear a lot of hats in the executive function world, and I help struggling students navigate this thing called education so that you can have a fantastic life, a great future. And in this executive function ADHD 2E neurodiverse world, what I do is I work with students who one of the things that they have in common is they tend to have a lot of clutter. Now, myself included, I absolutely was somebody who struggled with this and struggled with clutter, and I've done a lot of things to change it. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell you why it matters and what you can do about it. So, and what the three types are. The first thing I'm going to do is tell you why it matters. I want you to imagine clutter is anything that takes up space in your life that you don't want it to. And the resistance that most of my students experience when we start talking about decluttering and about clutter is, oh, I don't really feel like dealing with it now. I'll deal with it later. And what happens is the clutter continues to collect. And what happens with that clutter is there's a term called opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. This is a business term, but this is what I want you to know about opportunity cost. When it comes to clutter, there is a cost. It costs you. It costs me something. And what it costs us is an opportunity. Anything that we have in our life takes away an opportunity for something else. So for example, I used to play a lot of video games, and when I played, I got really frustrated with myself because I realized that the opportunity cost was that I couldn't do anything meaningful with my life when I was playing those video games. And one day, after playing about 3 hours of this stupid game that brought no value to my life, I was like, I'm done. And I haven't played video games since because I know myself, and it's just not a rabbit hole I want to go down again. But what happened was that over months or years of my life, I spent, imagine spending. You spend money, right? Well, you can also spend attention. Have you ever heard of the term pay attention? Pay attention. Why the word pay? Pay. It's a cost. We want to put our attention, invest our attention in a place that's good. And for me paying attention or spending or the cost of doing those games, I was paying my time, my money, my energy, but there was nothing coming out of it. So the opportunity cost was that I was investing a lot of time, energy into these games, and they were bringing me nothing. Well, what about the clutter that I'm telling you about? So I consider me playing those video games, I consider that a type of mental clutter. Well, that's going to bring me into the topic here. What are the types of clutter that we are going to talk about today? So we are going to talk about three types of clutter, and they are physical, digital, and mental or emotional clutter. So, and then I also told you that I would tell you what you can do about it. So when we think about physical clutter, that's the simplest one. That's just the piles, the old clothes, old books, old toys, things just stuffing your locker, stuffing your desk, stuff in drawers. It's clutter, like stuff that we don't really need, we don't really value, it doesn't really enhance our lives, it doesn't really bring any good to our life, and it's just sitting there collecting dust. That is physical clutter, physical clutter. Now, I said that there were three types of clutter as far as I teach it. The second type of clutter that I want to talk about is what I would call digital clutter. And the type of digital clutter that my students have primarily comes in terms of email, but there can be other types. But what happens is some of my students have thousands of emails, and they're subscribed to a bunch of things, which obviously in this day and age, getting your information to anybody is potentially risky. I mean, people have a lot of information on you, and we just give it to them. So be very cautious also with the digital clutter. But in talking about email, their inboxes are so full. There's so much clutter in there. There's so many things they're subscribed to that they don't care about. They don't open up unopened emails. But there's also clutter, digital clutter, in terms of, as I said before, for me, it was video games. There can be certain types of social media. I deleted most of my social media accounts a couple years ago because I just don't want the clutter. I don't want it taking up space in my life. I really don't want my energy to go to a million of these things that I don't care about, et cetera, et cetera. So you have your digital clutter. And thirdly, we have our mental or emotional clutter, the things that take up space in our mind. And earlier I mentioned mentioned that the digital can be mental too, meaning that the video games, I was spending my mental energy on the video games. But we can also have mental or emotional energy in terms of people or relationships, or people who really, people who maybe used to be friends but really are not good friends anymore. People who we have in our life, or things that we have in our life, things that take up space, that keep us up at night, that bother us, that bring us anxiety or sadness or depression, or things like that. So that is what I would consider mental or emotional clutter. Now, we all have it, and I'll explain what to do about all three, including that one in just a moment. So let's go back to that. What do you do about physical clutter? Well, you can do many things about physical clutter, but my recommendation is to start a giant list and list out the two categories of physical clutter that you have. One is physical clutter in a space, and the other is physical clutter in a category. I did a big video about this recently, but the physical clutter in a category is like your old books, your old clothes, your old toys, like things, your old sporting goods, things that you don't need anymore. So you can make a list of all the different categories in your life. Then you can make a list of the spaces in your life, the drawers, the cabinets, the closet, under the bed, the different spaces you want to declutter and organize. So make a list of these things and then start chipping away. Do 1 or 2 a week and keep at it, and you're going to get through it in a couple months and start that decluttering process. Now, we also have this digital clutter, and what are we going to do about this? Well, obviously you can unsubscribe from things. What I would do is every week or so take some time to delete things digitally, unsubscribe from things, delete old photos you don't need anymore, old documents, delete old emails, respond to emails you should respond to, things like that. But go ahead and chip away at it. Start doing it a little bit every week. And then finally, we have this mental or emotional clutter. Now, we don't just get over it or just forget about things. And sometimes you might hear advice, if you have digital, or if you have mental or emotional clutter, somebody's like, just let it go. Just get over it. Just don't worry about it. Just don't think about it. Well, that's not what happens. So when it comes to our mental or emotional clutter, what we want to do is we want to deal with it. We want to find healthy people. It could be parents, it could be therapists, counselors, teachers, friends, good friends, real friends. We could journal, we could see our therapist, we can meditate, we can do all sorts of things to work with processing and dealing with the mental and emotional clutter. It doesn't just go away. We don't just declutter it like we can some of the physical clutter. These are things that we have to work on and take a little bit of time and patience and persistence. But if you are somebody who does struggle with some anxiety or depression or digital or mental or emotional clutter, that you're like, Seth, yeah, clutter is something that gets in the way of my life, me living my best life. And there are things that my head is spinning about and looping about that I don't want to be in control of me. I really want to work through this stuff. I'm telling you, there's so much hope, so much hope, so much hope. Do not give up. Find the people that can help you, and you will find ways around this stuff. So, as I said, my name is Seth Perler, and I have a website. This is my summit. I have something called the executivefunctionsummit.com, where I've been some amazing speakers every year. My website is sethperler.com, where I got a bunch of freebies for parents and teachers. Go ahead and subscribe there. And if you like this video, if this helped you in any way, give it a like or a thumbs up in YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube, ding the bell if you want to get notifications from me, and leave a comment. What insights or inspiration or advice do you have for me, for us, for other people who have clutter, digital, physical, mental, emotional clutter? Do you know of another category of clutter that you would have put in there that I left out? How do you define it? Give us some of your wisdom and your advice. And with that, I want to wish you peace of mind, peace in your heart. I want to wish you joy, and I want to wish you connection with the people that you care about today. Take care.